Hello, and welcome to The Resource, the podcast propelling employer brands to recruit smarter and retain better. I'm your host, Priscilla Peters.
And I'm your other host, Scott Dismuke. Priscilla, you have survived another recruiting and retention conference.
Yes.
Finished it up a couple weeks ago when we're recording this. How'd it go?
It went great. We had a great time. We had great attendees, great sponsors. I mean, the feedback that we've gotten has been really, really good. I'm excited about how it went. We're kind of putting the bow on it right now. You know, you got to tie up all the fun loose ends. But listen, we had a really successful event. I know that honestly, there was a lot of talk about technology and data and all the things that are kind of right up our alley. But you had a chance to kind of talk to some folks while we were there. And that's really what this episode's all about, right?
Yeah, I did. So we did this episode a little differently. So Priscilla, for those of you that don't know, pretty much runs and manages the R&R conference. So she was completely tied up actually doing work while some of us were attending the conference, having a good time. So what we were able to do for this episode that we're going to play you is we were able to sit down with several people and do some short interviews just to kind of get a variety of topics covered and get feedback and just listen to some folks talk about recruiting and retention and some technologies and podcasts and tried to cover the whole gamut. So unfortunately for this episode, you're going to be stuck with me interviewing these people. And I told Priscilla when we were talking about this, it was really weird kind of starting out because I'm used to us feeding off of one another when we do these episodes. And so to have to go in and interview these people completely alone, I felt, I was a little lonely. Priscilla, I missed you.
No, you'll probably be like, I'm solo now. Like now I can just take this on the road and be solo.
Well, let's see what the feedback is before we start patting people on the back. But I did. It was weird having to kind of fly solo on this. So this episode really is we're going to play several interviews for you that we did, kind of some short 10, 15, 20-minute interviews, just to kind of give you a variety of some of the things that we covered. And I'll just kind of piggyback on what Priscilla said. If you've never been to the R&R conference, you got to go. It's a great conference. There's so much information that is able to be learned at this conference. So when we talk about it next year, make sure you sign up and go. Priscilla and the team at Conversion does a fantastic job of putting this together, and it's definitely worth your time. And you get to come to Nashville. So that's pretty good. So we'll play these short interviews for you. Take a listen. We hope you enjoy it because there's some good information here. All right, everybody. First guest at the annual R&R is going to be our good friend Lori Furnell. Lori, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. So let me give you everybody a little background. So Lori is the president of Truck Drivers USA and Drivers.jobs. She has 34 years of experience, which means you started at age 12?
12 and a half.
12 and a half. In the transportation industry and works for both fleets on the advertising and has worked for fleets on both advertising and marketing side. She has spent 20 years working with trucking companies in the talent and acquisition space and 14 years with an ad agency that specializes in driver recruitment marketing. So usually we start all of our guests off with what we call the first five. So since this is a little different and we're interviewing a lot of folks, I'm not going to put you through the first five, but I am going to ask you at least one question to just kind of break the ice here. So what is the most used app on your phone?
Oh, truthfully?
Well, preferably.
TikTok.
Okay. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Followed a close second behind Pinterest. Pinterest is front. I'm a big Pinterest.
Yeah, so I've never done the Pinterest. I get sucked into the TikTok hole quite a bit. And it's
a hole.
Yeah,
it's
you get in there and you just keep going. Keep going. So, all right. So tell us a little bit first about Truck Drivers USA. What do you guys do?
Truck Drivers USA is basically, think of it as Match.com.
Okay.
We find drivers. We pull them into our system. We look at what they're looking for and their criteria. And then we work with carriers and we match them based on what their criteria is. And we do it all within like 36 hours. So it's a very relevant, it's a driver looking for a job. We match them very quickly with the carrier, and the carrier is able to do. We do some lead nurturing with it, do some other things, but that's essentially the beauty of what we do.
Yeah.
We supply pre-qualified leads.
That's fantastic. So part of this, as I understand, is you're building online communities. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the secret. Just to give you an idea, we have just on Facebook alone over 1 million followers. But here's the cool thing: we do the greatest content. I'm a big proponent for the image of the driver.
Okay.
So we do all this really cool content. The drivers are really engaged. 2 months ago, I had one post that hit 70 million. 70 million.
Wow.
I mean, crazy. And they just love what we're doing, and they're sharing it, and those friends are sharing it and sharing it. I mean, heck, it showed up on my 84-year-old mom's Facebook.
Oh, fantastic.
So it just kind of hit everybody.
So maybe for our folks that are listening, what advice would you have for people when it comes to building online communities?
First off, I've been on the carrier side trying to build a community. And on the carrier side, we did a lot of serious stuff, very serious trucking stuff. And we didn't show our human side. And what I'm finding is drivers want that human side.
Mm-hmm.
So on social, anything that we can show that has a little bit of humor. And you can do humor and still be respectful. You can do humor and still be classy, right? But anything with a little bit of humor, anything that is educational, they thrive for that education. Anything's going to help me know more, do more, be better. I even found on Facebook, on LinkedIn, when we our target on LinkedIn obviously is for our customers. And when we post something that's either very personal, like a birthday message from one of our associates, or something about your children, or we post something with a little bit of humor, we get far greater response, far greater engagement than just sharing some article.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So funny, serious, just something showing the human side. Is it usually funny that gets the most kind of response? Or
the one that got the 70 million was literally a picture of the interstate, and it had an arrow pointing to lane 1 and said, "This lane you go fast and pass. Lane 2, this lane you go the speed limit, and lane 3, this lane you go under the speed limit." That's literally all. So it wasn't funny, but it hit every one of us understand the frustration involved in people driving in the wrong lane.
And you and I both driven in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Where that left lane gets super
It's
backed up. Well, it does.
Yeah.
But the bad thing is, in defense of our friends that are driving a truck, is that it's 75 in Arkansas, but truckers can only go 70.
Absolutely.
So when they get over in that left lane to pass, they don't have a choice.
Right.
And it slows everybody down. So
Yeah,
they certainly get a pass on that. So I understand you have a brand new site for final mile drivers.
So excited.
So kind of maybe talk about that a little bit, and then talk about maybe what is the secret sauce on the final mile drivers.
Oh, great. So we have a site called driver.jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So on drivers.jobs, it's really geared towards that driver that wants to run local, regional, and it's everything from I'm a Class A driver that's local, regional, dedicated, to I drive a straight truck, to I'm in my own car delivering as a courier. So it covers that whole gamut. If you're a driver and you want a job driving something, we have a place for you. And I'm finding, when we did the research before we started this, it was really interesting to see that companies spend 53% of their shipping costs for dog ear for this final mile portion.
Really?
Yeah. So they're and notice in your, I don't know about you, but I get grocery delivery as often as I can.
Oh. Yes.
And so we've become the society that's during COVID, that's what some of our drivers came off the road, and that's what they had to do, right? So we're finding more and more need. I know when I started in trucking, a long haul truck driver drove 1,500 miles. By the time I got out of working for a long haul trucking company, the average haul was 615 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Now I would dare to say it's much below that, but we're seeing that length of haul, and it's because drivers are demanding, and rightfully so, a better work-life balance. And shortening those hauls and changing how we do things is allowing them to do that. So excited. Secret sauce, same kind of thing. You come into the system, you tell us about yourself, we match you with the company, we find the company and connect you two together, and it's a win-win for everybody.
That's fantastic. So So let everybody know how they can find you on the web or
Yes.
on Facebook. Let everybody know how they can find you, and if they want to reach out to you about seeing how they can you can help them.
So we're truck drivers with plural, truckdriversus.com. You can find us on the site. From there, you'll see all the links to all of our social channels. We're on all the channels. And then drivers.jobs. And again, you can find us on all those, on all of our channels.
That's fantastic. Well, I definitely want to make sure we have you back on a full episode. We can really dive into this. Priscilla will be here. She's much more exciting than I am, and probably a little more entertaining.
I have a few trekking stories I could share too.
I'm all in for that. So really appreciate you stopping by. Have a great time this week.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Good deal. Thank you.
All right, everybody. This is the interview that I've been looking forward to the most. And as I introduce him to you, I'm literally going to do it as he sent it to me in this bio, because nothing will explain our good friend Matt Beach better than the bio he sent me. So here we go.
That was not written at all. This is pure. I wrote this.
Oh,
this is not ChatGPT. This is me.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Matt Beach is the master of multitasking and a legend in the driver recruiting sector.
I mean, legend's a little too much. I like it.
We go with it. By day, he is the president of 10-4 Recruiting,
True.
reeling in qualified driver candidates for 10-4's amazing clients. But when the sun sets, you'll find him knee-deep in a trout stream.
Yes.
Casting lines and swapping tails with the fish about the ones that got away. On weekends, Beach transforms into a riverboat gambler, navigating the high seas of chance with a poker face that could rival Mount Rushmore. Between hands, he's planning his next turkey or deer hunting excursion, blending seamlessly into the wilderness like a ninja in camo.
Yeah.
Now, when he sent that to me, he said I could change whatever I want.
Anything you did.
I didn't change a thing, because here's what I told him. This bio is a lot like a Bob Ross painting. It's timeless.
It's majestic.
And is not to be messed with.
I love it.
So that is the Bob Ross painting.
There's a challenge. I was going to see if you would change it, and we were going to have an issue. But I appreciate you keeping it to the norm.
I wasn't going to change the thing. So here's the other thing. We normally have on our podcast what we call our first five.
Okay.
And our first five are serious questions that seriously don't matter. We're not asking all of the 5 questions on this, but there's a question on here that I absolutely wanted to ask you. So we're going to start with that. And that is, what is one talent that you have that only those close to you know about?
Oh, well, I mean.
This is.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
I'm sorry about that. I went that route. I can do. Without it, it depends, because I'm drinking this, and it's not my flavor by no means. But at the same time, I can do a turkey call.
All right.
Without having an actual call in my mouth, just natural.
Okay.
It's not great, but it's good enough.
All right.
You know what a turkey call sounds like?
I know exactly what a turkey call sounds like.
Let's try it.
Yeah, no, that's
wow, come on, that's how you're doing.
That is not good. I went turkey hunting.
I mean, you put me on the spot. You put me on the spot.
Well, it's far better than what I.
These acoustics are wrong. You put me on the spot. I'm feeling nervous.
I'm
like Step Brothers.
I went turkey hunting one time.
How'd you do?
I fell asleep. I'm a duck hunter. I prefer to duck hunt.
Well, duck hunt, you fall asleep too.
No, I actually don't. I don't fall asleep when I duck hunt, but I have to be quiet when I turkey hunt. I don't have to be quiet when I duck hunt.
So I've done a lot of hunting, different types. Duck hunting is the one I've never done.
Okay.
I've never done duck hunting. Never.
So duck hunting is right up your alley.
Oh, I love it.
You don't. So I have to be. I'm a social hunter, right? The other great thing about duck hunting,
social mean you like to talk.
Yeah, I don't want to have to be quiet. If I'm going to get up there,
you don't have to be. Well, you have to be quiet, but you can actually stalk. You're not just. Yeah, I'm not sitting in one spot. I'm finding the birds. I'm finding where they're at.
Duck hunting, you sit in a blind with 6 or 7 of your buddies, and all you do is just watch for ducks before you call them in. But in between there, you're socializing, as we would say.
So I
here's the thing. I've been duck hunting numerous times. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I've ever shot a duck. I've shot at a duck.
You never killed a duck.
I don't know. Because what happens is that when they come into land, everybody pops out of the blind and fires off 3 shots. If you got 8 guys, that's 24 shots going one time. I have no idea.
Now, when you're in a duck blind, what are things you don't say? There's got to be a list
of things you don't say.
Yeah, there's got to be a list. Like
what
if we're in a blind? I go, I hear Mariah Carey's making a comeback.
You can say that,
but you wouldn't want to.
No,
with much guys.
No, you wouldn't want to say that.
Or guys, I think the keys are somewhere between here and the truck.
That's yeah, because you're probably somewhere in the middle of the field. I will tell you. Here's what I told.
Is it okay if I shoot the mud up in my barrel?
here's what I told my son, and then we'll have to get to it because Priscilla's going to get on me for not staying on track with her not here. So first time we went, I took my son. He was 13 years old. First time I took him duck hunting, and I told him, I said, all right, here's the rule. What's said in the duck blind stays in the duck blind.
Does it really?
It did with him. If he wanted to go back,
it did.
It sure did. Now, that was several years ago. So, all right, we need to have you on again.
We have 5 questions
in the full thing. Yeah. Oh no, just one of the first 5. Because if I ask you the first 5, it's a whole episode.
Give me one more. What's another one? What did you have?
What is the best sandwich?
Oh, it's BLT, hands down. No mayonnaise, mustard only, bacon less than tomato.
Toasted.
It has to be toasted.
White bread, wheat bread.
Yep. White bread. Old man sandwich is what I call it. I can eat those all day long.
All right.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Can't beat it.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
What?
A hot dog a sandwich?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? No, it's not.
Okay. How do you define a sandwich? I mean, if we're gonna go
2
bread,
pieces of flat bread.
2 pieces of flat bread.
2 pieces of bread. 2 pieces of bread.
Okay. All right. So we'll have you on. We'll ask you all 5 of the first 5. We're going to have you full. So, all right. So let's get down to business here. So tell us a little bit about 10-4 Recruiting. What do you do? The whole 9 yards.
10-4 Recruiting is just your standard third-party recruiting. So back in, oh gosh, I know I'm probably saying it wrong, but maybe I think it was 2020 when I kicked around the idea. It was kind of in the middle of COVID, and I've always stayed close with the trade hopping schools. You know, it's at that point I was like, okay, they're shutting down. We're fixing to have what I call it was a true shortage. I mean, you're not actually, people are not going into the industry. Excuse me. And so I thought, see a need, fill a need, right? And this could be a good opportunity. So started in November. I remember I had 2 people within the first month, I had 2 people, 2 recruiting on. And one of them is still with me to this day. He's my recruiting manager. Does a great job. But I had started it, brought them on, and brought on 2 large carriers at the time. And then I got COVID. And then it was to the point where it was the real deal type stuff. And one of them called me and said, are you going to, I can remember vividly him saying this, that, are you going to die? He's like, I just didn't know. I knew about the job. What's going on? And we came out and, it was very blatant. So we started off with the standard third party. And which is, flat cost. I want to guard 10 street leads and for whatever lanes we have open. And then we push that full application to the recruiter. The carrier to work up, be at standard department. We get hired on, great, we get paid. Then I had a carrier call me and say, I'm down people. Well, can you help me? I need some recruiters. Can you do this? And I was like, yep. I had no idea. I never It's like, I'll figure it out. And that's what we did. And so we offer those 2 buckets. We have the standard department. We have the, hey, I'm hurting, or I'm down a few staff, or staffing times.
Yeah.
Tip agency, right? But both of them's been really good. It's in a sense that we can do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bring me in. They're like, hey, what about? Can you help us out with training? Can you help us out with some other consultants? Can you do third party? Can you? Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you said. You learn as you go. And so we've it's been a blessing.
That's awesome.
A blessing. Yeah.
So you said a couple things. I want to touch on that. So you talked about being connected with schools, and I know you're on the board of the Commercial Vehicle
Training Association.
Training Association.
Yeah.
Thank you much. So let's talk about that a little bit. So maybe what challenges do you see? Because a lot of folks that are listening are recruiting, retention folks. So what challenges do you see for new drivers coming in the industry right now?
Well, first part, the Commercial Vehicle Training Association, if any carrier in the United States, if they have a student program or an entry-level driver training program, they must be connected to the CBTA. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Especially from a legislation standpoint, you've got, and even schools themselves, because if there's school owners that are listening to this and going, I'm stuck in the state because of they're holding me back on training or third-party testing, whatever, the CBTA has the connections to be able to help address those issues. And plus, with the CBTA, it's the largest largest organization of privately owned truck driving schools. So some of the largest in the nation are part of the CBTA. So you can think from a networking standpoint, you have truck driving schools along with large carriers. I mean, the relationships alone and the connections are phenomenal. And so it's always been one of my favorite organizations to be part of. Very passionate about helping drivers come into the trucking industry. Now, your question is, what's the challenges?
For newer drivers.
Well, even right now, I mean, it's for challenges for drivers and even for schools themselves. You've seen a lot of some pullback of how many students are being brought into those carriers, and so some schools our students are looking for jobs right now. It'll get better. It's going to pick up. It's going to happen. But
so do you think that's economic related?
Yeah, I do. It's totally. It's like, hey, we just don't have the team break. We don't have this break. We don't have this right here. We can't cut it because we need the experienced driver, not a trainer. And so, but that's going to get better. It definitely is. But the schools themselves are doing a fantastic job of being able to find placements for those. So, I mean, they're really having to, find some other key relationships and other carriers and other local individual companies that hire those for apprenticeship training, whatever. But the challenges themselves, I mean, I don't know if there's a challenge of people coming in. To me, it's a fantastic industry to get into.
So
there's always a need for a driver.
Yeah. So how do we, because it's not a secret in trucking that our workforce is aging. How do we attract maybe some from the younger generation? We saw during COVID, truckers really got their due, as they should have during COVID. It was all about nurses and truck drivers during COVID. So how do we maybe maintain that momentum and attract younger drivers into the industry?
Yeah, so I'm doing a breakout session with Lindsay Trent and Priscilla Davis. Lindsay Trent with Next Generation Truck Drivers, and Priscilla Davis, she is a co-owner of a truck driving school here in Nashville.
Okay.
And that was the question of what are the next generation or those type drivers? What can the younger generation? What is it that they can do to entice them to come to the industry, or while they're in it? How do you keep them in there?
Yeah.
A lot of it is. Maybe I don't want to take some of the thunder away, but more so that still keeping a strong relationship. Always communication's always been key.
Yep.
I think there was a mention of Wi-Fi on the trucks. I mean, it's amazing how some of that goes a long way, especially when they're in the bunk going, what do I do, right? And so there's that. Pay is a huge one. I mean, pay's got to be competitive. Yeah. And because especially right now, I mean, think about, which again, a challenge, but with the way cost of living is.
Yeah.
Benefits are huge right now. You might want to be able to have health benefits or whatever. But I mean, I didn't think about a 401k at that age. I wasn't at all.
No.
But now we've been trying to push it, save. And so all those, and there's much more of just that, of those younger individuals coming into the industry, of just, again, just be open, be honest, have a phenomenal communication versus just putting a truck and making a number.
Yeah.
All drivers want to do that, especially this younger generation, make communications.
Yeah. No, and we see that in our data all the time. So real quick, kind of last question, finish up here. So what advice would you have for carriers? Because I know you spend a lot of time in recruiting and things like that. So particularly for 2024 as it relates to carriers, what advice would you have for them navigating their ATS?
Oh gosh, well, it's train. Use that tool and challenge whatever ATS you're using. Find out ways of how can this ATS help me hire the most drivers at the cheapest cost. A lot of people don't think that. Like their ATS is just a link. It goes in, the lead, and I got to make a phone call to it. It's a sales tool. And utilize it as a sales tool. Get your statuses where they need to be. Reporting, which is data. How are you going to get that? Your ATS can do that for the most part. Most ATSs can provide you the data you need. And it's amazing carriers don't realize that. Or it's just so cumbersome. What about this? What about reporting all that? And so take some time to sit down with the ATS people and say, how do I make this better for me, for my team? How do I make it to where it helps me hire more drivers at the cheapest cost? How do I organize it for my team? How do I make this an actual sales tool? Because it is. It's just a lot of carriers just not utilizing it that way. And it should be. But the big thing for me is data, reporting. And all that goes back to is making sure your recruiters are trained on it properly, utilizing, you have statuses that are defined accordingly as to what each one means, and tagging.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, really appreciate the time.
Are you getting teary-eyed?
I'm getting teary-eyed.
You're like choking up because we're over with.
I've been looking forward to this for weeks.
You've been with me for like 15 minutes. I need to get out.
I'll get you now.
I go 3 hours. I can talk.
Listen.
I can talk.
We need to talk.
We can make BLT sandwiches as we go.
We need to talk hunting stories, but we may need to check the rating on that one because I can tell some stories. So, but appreciate your time. Have a great conference, man. We will see you soon, and we'll definitely have you on for a full hour next time.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Yeah.
So our next guest is Grant Harrell. Grant is coming to us from Market Scale, based out of Dallas.
Yes.
You're actually going to be on one of the panels tomorrow in one of the main sessions. So we're looking forward to that. But you are the head of transportation and mobility for Market Scale, and you are the host of the acclaimed transportation mobility focused video podcast series, Are We There Yet?
Yes.
Where he speaks with individuals and companies defining the cutting edge of technology shaping the way we move around. Grant, it's great to have you in Nashville. It's great to have you at the conference, and appreciate you giving us some time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here, and what a great city. You've got a special city here in Nashville, so I always have a lot of fun when I get out here, so really great to be here. Excited for the big event. Here we go. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. So tell us a little bit about your background, Market Scale, and maybe more importantly, your podcast for our listeners.
Sure, absolutely. So really proud, as you shared, to serve as the head of transportation mobility at Market Scale. Market Scale, an incredible organization. Really, we work within a mission to really engage and activate the communities that are most important to the clients that we support. And a lot of that engagement, as we all know, nowadays happens to be online. And videos and podcast series and going live are such great tools, to really engage those communities out there nowadays. And so we really help companies to make that very easy and kind of turn everyone in their organizations into ambassadors to really get them a part of kind of that brand building, content creation, kind of decentralizing their content creation. So we love to do that, and we really are a tool and a platform that makes that very, very easy and effective for companies nowadays to do. And so we support clients in about 16 different industries, so about every industry you can think of. And so, everything from healthcare to professional audio, video, retail, and I really enjoy my focus on the transportation mobility side of things. And so mobility nowadays, what used to be trains, planes, and automobiles is drones and robots and space travel and autonomous trucking and all the amazing stuff. So I really enjoy, working within that vertical, supporting clients, in that space, and have a lot of fun doing that. And as you shared too, also really enjoy hosting the Are We There Yet video podcast series as well. And it's a fun series, and I've had the series up for almost 2 years now.
I noticed you were 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about and doing a little research is you don't just talk just about trucking. I mean, it is all kind of modes of transportation. I've seen stuff about rockets and trucks and airplanes. I mean, it kind of covers everything, right?
It really does. It really does. And that was really our goal, I think, for the series. When we think transportation mobility today, as I shared, it's more than just, automotive. It's more than just, trucks and trains and airplanes and things that we associate kind of with traditional transportation. It's all this other really cool stuff that's happening. As you shared, the space industry is such a fun industry nowadays. You've got these incredible private organizations that are, launching rockets, into orbit. And it's fascinating. And I had the opportunity to speak with a retired NASA astronaut, in fact, and CEO of an incredible organization that uses recycled thermoplastics as the fuel for launching satellites. And so they recycled water bottles and turning that into rocket fuel. So, really fascinating stuff like that. And for me in the podcast, it's pretty simple. I bring leaders such as yourself onto the series, and quite simply, I ask, are we there yet in terms of the stuff that they're working on? And so whether it's using recycled plastic water bottles to launch satellites into space, whether it's, enterprise level organizations, the Cisco, Honeywell, Shell, John Deere's of the world. I enjoy talking with them. And then I enjoy having a lot of fun too, learning about some of this really cool cutting edge stuff like the Rocket Company, a really cool company that is revolutionizing kind of shipping and logistics and using tubes to move products and eventually our goods. And so this idea, we all love Prime, next day, same day shipping is cool, but how about ordering something online and getting it in 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah.
That'll soon be a reality. So as you shared, it's a fun space. It's a lot of different industries. And I think the thing that kind of brings it all together is let's just talk about the cool stuff that you're working on. So
I got to know, just out of curiosity, because I've thought about just on a whim trying it for the resource.
Yes.
Have you tried to get Elon Musk?
He is on my list.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
And if Elon Musk is listening, which you very may well be to your incredible series today, please come on Are We There Yet? I'd love to ask him a couple of Are We There Yet questions about all that he's doing right now within space and within Tesla and all the
Exactly.
incredible
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we figure out a joint way.
Yes.
Do a joint podcast.
Yes.
Full court press on Elon Musk.
Let's
He
do
can
it.
come and talk about space.
Yes.
He can talk about electric trucks.
That's right.
We can just.
It'd be a great conversation. Absolutely.
He's in Texas now.
He is,
right?
he is,
So you've kind
absolutely.
of got a home court advantage.
Down the road.
Elon Musk, if you're listening,
Yeah.
we're going to come. We're going to try to get you on. So,
Yes. Let's do that.
Awesome. So let's talk cutting edge technologies in trucking.
Yes.
So lots of talk right
Yeah.
now about autonomous trucks.
Yep.
It's being discussed more and more.
Yep.
So maybe how close do you think we are as an industry to having autonomous trucks being more prevalent on the road?
Yeah, great question. Great. Are we there yet question? I love it. And I think autonomous trucking, as you shared, is one of the most exciting spaces, right now in all of transportation and mobility, right? This idea of 18-wheeler trucks delivering the goods that are so important to us. I mean, I really view trucking as kind of a backbone of the world and especially of America and just, empowering our everyday lives. And so this idea of moving towards autonomy within trucking, I think is very exciting. To kind of answer the question or move towards getting there, how close are we getting there? Are we there yet in terms of autonomous trucking? The answer is we are very, very close. I think my formal answer would be, are we there yet? Almost. And how close are we? Well, we're so close that in Texas today, for example, you have some of the leaders within the industry, companies like Kodiak, for example, and Aurora, that are moving towards autonomy and right now are on missions to have fully autonomous vehicles with no observer driver, for example, by the end of this year. So that's how close we are. So we're, mid-February, right now, by the end of the year, into December, I think that we'll see fully autonomous trucks on the road, in Texas as an example. And I can say, for me, living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I've seen already, I have to say, a couple of Kodiak's trucks, for example, moving towards autonomy with the observer drivers, of course, but I've seen them on the highway already today. So that's how close we are.
So you think, because I've often thought about the autonomous trucks, and
Yeah.
I thought, well, if we ever get to that as an industry, it'll be a lot like when we fly on a plane. So we have autopilot,
Yes.
but there's always a pilot.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll actually be to where there won't be anybody in the cab, not even a safety driver?
I do. I think it will reach that point for sure. And I think we'll gradually get there. I know that all of these organizations, the technology providers, the tech companies, the carriers, the truck manufacturers that are really all involved in this, it's truly a collaboration of everyone to really make it happen. They're driving towards this fully autonomous vision with safety as the number one priority, right? Safety for the organization, safety for the people around the truck on the highway, safety for everyone involved. And so I give the industry a lot of credit that they're really using that, to really move forward with their vision. I think, yeah, to answer your question, ultimately, will they be fully autonomous without anyone in the cab? Yes, but I think, we'll gradually get there. And I think your analogy, with the autopilot on the planes, is a great analogy. I've heard numbers that as much as 80% of traveling in an airplane and the driving, if you will, about 80% of that is fully autonomous even today. So the pilot's only really grabbing those controls maybe 20% of the time or something like that. So it's already that autonomous, with the commercial air travel. And I think trucking's moving ahead very quickly to get there as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we know, obviously, our folks that are listening and watching, trucking is a very heavily regulated industry.
Yes.
So how big of a hurdle, and we don't have to get too political here, you can if you want.
Yes.
But how big of a hurdle do you think the federal government will be to this fully? And I think when I say fully, probably the same thing that you do.
Yeah.
Fully as in nobody in the cab ever.
Mm-hmm.
How big of a hurdle do you think the federal government and maybe even to some degree the insurance industry is going to be to that fully autonomous cab?
Yeah. I believe and take comfort in the fact that, I think on the regulation side of things, that they, like everyone else involved on the business side of things, are really using safety as a number one priority. We're going to carefully get to autonomy, and make sure that it's completely safe. It's interesting in different industries, but it's interesting, for example, Tesla's and other, automotive manufacturers right now have almost autonomous or kind of, co-pilot mode, in the vehicles today. So you can hit a couple of buttons in a lot of vehicles today and get it in autonomous mode. And you probably, ridden around, in your own vehicle or a friend's vehicle, when it's pretty much driving itself. And that's allowed, right? That's legal. That's moved, through the regulation process. And so, I think like that trucks will as well. And I think, that an important kind of question within this conversation today and some of the great topics that you're bringing up is that going to be a hurdle? I think it won't if safety continues to drive things. And I think specifically kind of answer your question, largely, the federal government very involved in this, but is leaving a lot of the regulation up to the states and allowing the states to really determine the regulation and be involved in that process within their own states. And so some states are better than others in terms of, really being behind and pushing, autonomy in trucking, for example. So I think that's kind of what's going on in the regulation, side of things. And I think it's important to note too, are we there yet? Almost as I shared, but, I think it's an important question, why do we want to get there? And I think that answers a lot of questions, around this as well. I mean, it's cool. And, I think we immediately kind of, imagine, well, this is a safety thing, right? Ultimately, autonomous trucks are going to be safer, on certain routes and certain scenarios, than a human driver. And if that's, the reason behind all this, that's a good thing, right? If we're saving lives and making trucking safer, that's a good thing. And I think that's, a big part of why this is all happening right now. Yeah. Technology is at that point now to where it can really, be safer.
And do you think, though, that the general public, because when we say safer, I like in my heart, I want to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But driving, even here in downtown Nashville, our traffic has just gotten worse and worse year after year.
Yes.
If I'm driving in downtown Nashville and I look over and I see an 80,000-pound truck and there's nobody in the cab.
Yes.
How big of a public hurdle from the general public are we going to have to get over?
Yes.
Forget the federal government, but just from the general public standpoint to looking over and seeing nobody. I know that Uber and Lyft, I know we've got self-driving cars that are doing that.
Yes.
But it's another thing when it's an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be like a public perception or a public hurdle that we have to get over to, as you say, talk about the safety of it? Because that, it almost seems a little counterproductive when we're saying, it's going to be safer, but there's nobody in the truck.
Yes. Great point. My immediate thought is, as you shared, and as I realized, we trust technologies at 35,000 feet, with 400 or 500 other people around us on a plane in the skies. And we're trusting every time we get a plane, as I did this morning, that those autonomous technologies are operating properly, right? And so if I'm trusting at that level, I have to be able to trust it on the highway. Does it make me a little bit uncomfortable? For sure. And from Dallas, Texas, when I've got 6 inches on one side, to the median, and 6 inches from that 80,000-pound truck on the other side, and I look up as I've already done, and I don't see a driver controlling it like I typically do on a truck like that, does it make me a little nervous? And do I give them a little more room, than I might normally? Absolutely, but I'm also jumping on a plane this morning, trusting those, technologies, that work. But I think we really need to look at it, for what it is too, in terms of, you mentioned some of the rideshare companies. There are rideshare companies today that are fully autonomous, that you're just jumping in and you're trusting to get to your destination in major cities. So that stuff is happening. I think to your point, whenever there's an accident or an incident with one of those vehicles, or an incident with a Tesla or something like that, that's all we hear about. And people kind of go crazy about it. The reality, are we ignoring the hundreds or thousands of accidents that happen every day with human drivers? Yeah. And or that happen, with taxi cabs or lifts that have human drivers, yeah. We're a little bit more sensitive, and I think news and media, we all, really, really pick up on that stuff. But I am confident, and, I'm someone, that like you, that, this stuff didn't even exist, wasn't even a thought, when I got my driver's license, and so it's all very fascinating and cutting edge. But I think that we have to trust in the technology, as we almost do on an airplane, today, and know that at the end of the day, the math and the tests and the technology show that this has a quicker reaction time, than a human possibly can, and it can predict conditions and things like that, to a level that we really don't have, the brain power to as humans. And so I guess I'm trusting, in a lot of that technology. And so, that safety, that trust in that technology is important. But I think we have to remember at the end of the day too, there are some really nice advantages for the drivers themselves and for the trucking companies and the carriers. There's things like efficiency, increased efficiency in production. Autonomous, vehicles, for example, they don't have limited hours, right? It doesn't have to sleep as we do. There's hours of service regulations in the trucking industry. Autonomous technologies, the robots don't have to abide by that. They can keep on trucking, where drivers, might not. That safety thing, I think we talked about, a little bit is really important. Reducing some of those labor costs for the carriers is a good thing. One of the benefits that I like most, though, and that's the reality in autonomous trucking, I think just, hitting some of those, benefits and where I kind of see things going, is the fact that autonomous trucks truly will pick up a lot of the less desired routes within trucking. And so a big thing within the trucking industry, as you well know better than I do, is that, drivers want to be at home more. They don't want to be on the road all the time. And so if there's an ability to supplement, that with technology that allows them to be home and focus maybe on kind of those short haul routes, in and around where they live, and they can put a full day in and be at home, with their family at the end of the night. And we've got robots picking up some of these undesirable routes that they'd rather not take anyway. I think that could be a good thing too. So I think there's some good advantages there too, other than just safety. Yeah.
That's fascinating. I when we start talking about stuff like this, it kind of makes me feel like the old man yelling at kids to get off his lawn. Because I'll be honest with you, if I order an Uber and I get in and there's nobody in the driver's seat, I'm probably getting out just as quick as I got in.
For sure.
I'm not. I don't know if I'm that trusting quite yet, but it's very fascinating to think about. Well, let everybody know how they can find the podcast. Where can they find it? Where can they subscribe?
Sure. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So you can find it at marketscale.com. We've got an incredible shows and channels page. It's really kind of known within the industries nowadays. It's the Netflix of B2B. So go to the Netflix of B2B, marketscale.com, hit the shows and channels tab. Are we there yet? It will come up as one of hundreds of exciting shows in about 16 different industries. We can learn about some of the most cutting edge stuff happening. So please do check it out at marketscale.com. It's also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your favorite podcast platforms, so you can find it wherever you spend your time. But please do check it out, and it's a lot of fun. And we cover trucking and space and everything else, shipping, logistics, and it's a lot of fun.
I would tell everybody, I've listened to several episodes. Go check it out. It's a fantastic listen. It's extremely interesting. But I really appreciate you coming by. Looking forward to hearing you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Welcome to Nashville. Enjoy the conference, let's work on that Elon Musk.
Let's do it. We're going to make that happen 2024. Thanks so much for having us, guys.
All right. So our next guest is the President of Recruiting Operations for TransForce, Craig Ferguson. So Craig manages and oversees all driver recruitment operations at TransForce, focusing on optimization of the recruitment pipeline, processes, and infrastructure to create more value for TransForce customers nationwide. Specifically, he's focused on reducing time to job placement, which is extremely important. Before this role, he acted as the managing partner for Drive 360 Logistics, one of the largest providers of talent in the transportation industry. Craig, welcome to the resource. Welcome to Nashville. Hope you're doing well.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
You land in Nashville, there's always excitement. But when I came into the hotel and saw the setup for the next couple of days, it's quite impressive.
Yeah.
You guys went all out.
So well, it's a great couple of days, and we know how to party here in Nashville apparently. So
the good part was, and we were talking about this previously, because we're nationwide and we have offices everywhere, we don't often get together as a team.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of team members here over the next couple of days. So it's always good to connect in person, especially when you're spread out. So
yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
No, absolutely. Appreciate you coming on. So before we get into the important transportation stuff, so I noticed in your bio, and I didn't know this when I was on your show a couple weeks ago, that you actually spent 14 years in the NHL and professional hockey. So I'm not I follow hockey, obviously, with the Nashville Predators in town. We went to the Stanley Cup a couple years ago, but I got to know what position did you play?
Sure.
Tell me about life in the NHL.
So I did play 14 years professionally. There was 8 here in North America. I spent the last 6 in Europe, which was a much different experience. But in the NHL, I played for teams in Montreal, the Canadiens, the Calgary Flames, the Florida Panthers. I think the Predators actually came after me. I am that far removed from the NHL, which is not a good thing because I know it's their 25th anniversary.
It is their 25th, but we don't have to talk about that.
Right. But I know that they have a great organization. They put some good roots down into the community. They've got a great product.
Yeah.
I mean, Bridgestone Arena is one of the best places to watch hockey, and hockey live. There's nothing.
I definitely agree with that. So I grew up in Missouri. I was kind of a St. Louis Blues fan, and then moved to Nashville 20 plus years ago. And I knew just based on, cheering for the Titans and kind of how passionate the city is about their sports, I knew it would take one deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs for this town to absolutely go berserk, because there is nothing better, in my opinion, and I'm a huge baseball fan, but there's nothing better than Stanley Cup playoff hockey. There is just something different about it that it's different than the World Series. It's different than playoffs in football. There's just an intensity to Stanley Cup hockey that I don't know if it's matched by other major sports, and I'm probably going to get hate mail on that.
Right. I don't have the experience in other sports, but the playoffs are, to your point, so exciting. It is absolutely a war of attrition.
Yeah.
It's just 2 months of battling. The winner is usually the one who just survives.
Yeah. And then you shake hands after, which is totally like any other sport,
Yeah.
So
it's close.
Did you get to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
No.
Didn't get to do it?
No. My first year with Montreal, I was in the minors and I got called up to be a black ace.
Okay.
It's the ones where, if anybody gets hurt on the main team, there's always somebody around to plug in.
Right.
You need that in the playoffs because there's a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
So it was 92, 93 was my first year out of college, my first year pro. So I got to be a black ace, and they actually won the Stanley Cup, which was great to watch.
Yeah.
I would love to have been involved in a game and be a part of that on the inside, but I was able to practice with the team and go through all the travel and the prep. It's a pretty exciting time, and it's fast approaching, another month.
Oh yeah,
we're
gonna be right in it. So
hopefully, Nashville making a good run.
Well, I could sit and talk about sports. But I think in order to pay the bills, I think we may need to specifically talk about a little transportation stuff. So obviously we're here at the Recruitment Retention Conference. Folks from all over the country have traveled into Nashville to talk about how we recruit more drivers, how do we generate more leads, and then how do we retain those drivers. So I guess I kind of want to talk to you specifically, are more leads always great?
That's a great question. I mean, we live this every day. So it'll be interesting to hear the breakout sessions and the speakers because they're in it as well. And to get that feedback and their thoughts, I think is going to be good. But, there's always this struggle at the top of the funnel. How much is too much? When should you turn off the spigot? And it really depends. You get that answer a lot with a lot of these questions. But, more and more, it's about quality into the top of the funnel and understanding the next step in your funnel. Okay, it's great to get 10, 15, 20 drivers into the top of the funnel, but if your recruiting team is not built to handle that capacity, then it's wasted. So you really have to look at every stage of the hiring cycle and your capabilities as a team to figure out, okay, what should you be bringing into the top of the funnel? So there's no reason to overwhelm your recruiting team if you don't have to. So really be thoughtful about, where the candidates are coming from and the quality. Always, understanding the platform and the source of those candidates, and then making adjustments based on the volume needed.
Right. So your focus is on reducing time to job placement. So timing is obviously always extremely important in this industry in particular, and particularly when it deals with recruiting. So maybe talk about that a little bit. What are some advice? What are tips do you have for kind of reducing that time from when maybe that driver hits the top of the funnel so you can get them placed?
Right. So we've really looked at the funnel and broken it down, and we've identified the different steps, and we really functionalized those steps. Really made them finite and applied resources at every stage to make sure we're optimizing each stage. So we get them into the top of the funnel, and we make sure they're reacted to immediately, making sure the recruiters know what's coming from a marketing perspective, know what they to expect at the top of the funnel, so they can react quickly, and making sure there's a connection too, right? So speed to that first connection is important, but communicating the next steps in the process to the driver is also important, because you've got to get the processing done, you've got to get the compliance done, you've got to get the onboarding done to get them into the seat. So it's not only first touch and communicating, it's really helping the driver understand, okay, this is where we are in the process. This is your next step. These are your expectations throughout. So we've really been thoughtful about the whole driver experience through the funnel and making sure we're optimizing at each step to make sure that there's no fall. There is going to be fall off. In the environment we're in, there's always opportunities for the drivers, but making sure you make that connection as quickly and efficiently as possible, and be open and communicate. And if there's to set expectations, I think is important.
Okay, so let's do kind of a final follow-up question here as it relates to leads. So trucking companies all the time are looking for drivers. Sometimes they've got to find them in challenging areas, Maine or somewhere along those lines, right? So when it comes to finding drivers in challenging areas, what are some of the things, what are some advice that you would have for those trucking companies that are looking to find those jobs that are a little challenging to fill?
Of course. I think one of the advantages we have at TransForce is we get to see a lot, right? We work with multiple carriers in every situation. We obviously get some of the more challenging roles to fill. When we look at our inventory of jobs, there's obviously more difficult jobs to fill. And what we have to do in those situations is understand all that we have, all the tactics that we have access to, both paid and unpaid. There's examples out there that we use. Princeton, Indiana, for example, is not an easy place to find drivers. When you have an open order or you have to fill 20 seats, that's a challenge. Sometimes you have to move away from full applications. You have to go to a lead level. And then beyond that, you might not get a full resume. You might just have an email or a phone number or an acquaintance who has a CDL. You have to work at that stage to get them into the top of the funnel so that they can fill out a full application. So relying on a certain level of lead at the top of the funnel is going to be challenging in different situations. A good job is going to be easier to get a full application and an engaged candidate than a more difficult job. Just understanding where the job is in comparison to other jobs in the market and where the market compares to other markets. And then planning your marketing accordingly and your recruiting accordingly. Knowing that if you're going to be in a difficult situation, yes, you can go out and spend, but be thoughtful about that.
Yeah.
Know that it's not going to work, and then you have to go to plan B. So it's always testing, adjusting, and evaluating. You'll get it eventually. It's just not going to be an immediate win when you put something in the market.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, appreciate your time, your feedback today. It's great. I want to talk hockey at some point. Maybe we do that at the reception. Yes, maybe we do that at the reception. But I want to have you back on when Priscilla's with me. She's obviously a lot better at this than I am. But have you back on, and we'll really dive into a lot of this and what's going on, particularly is what this year's going to look like with hopefully the economy rebounding. So
hopefully we'll be very busy and doing a lot of.
I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Enjoy the conference, and we'll see each other here pretty soon.
Good luck.
Thanks,
Well
man.
done.
Appreciate it.
Wow, Scott, those were great. I hate, honestly, after listening to those interviews, I hate that I wasn't there, that I couldn't have sat down with all of those folks. Listen, is anybody funnier in the industry than Matt Beach? I don't know.
No, there's not. And I told him when we got done, I'm like, listen, man, we'll have you back on for a full episode for no other reason than just the pure entertainment value. I had to really watch the clock because I was afraid we were going to go so long just bantering back and forth. So yeah, Beach is fantastic, and we'll definitely have him and some of the others back on to when we and the cool thing is we did talk to Grant about maybe trying to get an Elon Musk interview. So we'll
Okay.
I'm not going to promise anything, but how cool would that be to do a little Elon Musk? So we'll start pinging him on social media. We know he runs his own Twitter account, so we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, that'll be cool. And just remember, if you do want to register for the R&R conference next year, we always open registration on October 1st. And the conference is always in February, always in Nashville. Next year's conference is February 19th through the 21st, 2025. Can you believe we're even saying that out loud? And again, we are in Nashville. Next year, we'll be at the Grand Hyatt in Nashville. The website is annualrrconference.com, so you can check that out. Hey, this was great, Scott. I don't feel like I really had to do much on this episode. I kind of like that.
You had the perfect episode. You did great. No foul ups, nothing. You did great. So, well, listen, everybody. Thank you for listening to the resource. If you had fun, give us a high five by leaving us a rating or a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode of My Seriousness and Priscilla's Shenanigans. If you have any questions or feedback, share it with us or hit us up on social media or email, and we'll be back with our next episode with more fun data and information to help you in your recruiting and retention game. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month.